Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Camino Cafe. I am thrilled that you decided to join us today, and I just wanted to remind you that if you join our private Facebook group, it is the Camino Cafe podcast group, you will get special little tips, and you will also get some live videos with folks that I've been interviewing. They will be joining me this year, and we'll be doing special little sessions where you can ask questions after you've seen the interview. So I think it's going to be super fun. I'm also going to be doing little Facebook Lives with things in Spain, what's going on with my life, what's going on in the Camino. So anyway, that's the space where you can get some extra stuff if you're super interested. So if you are a big fan, a big supporter, please pop over there and like the page. It's only called private because that's what Facebook calls it. But it is a group, and you can meet other pilgrims. It's going to be a lot of fun. So join us over there this year. And yeah, so I'm in Rabanal, as you guys all know. The Camino Frances is to my left, and there have been pilgrims walking, not that many because it's winter time, but they are walking. And boy, they are a strong bunch, but super spirited and very much like my special guest today, right? So I have Dr. Guylene Gigi Tree with me, and I am thrilled to have her here. So thank you, Gigi, for coming today.
Well, and thank you so much for inviting me, and what a wonderful job you're doing. I enjoy your podcast so much.
Oh, Gigi, that's so sweet. Thank you for saying that. And I have to do a big public apology for Gigi, to Gigi, because she has been so patient. We have tried to do this
during your move and everything. You've had some big things in your life.
I did. But I tell you, I've never in my life, I have not been one to cancel interviews. And poor Gigi, I had to cancel several times, but she hung in and was in the true pilgrim spirit, gave me a chance to get settled so that we could be here today. So thank you so much for that.
Hey, not a problem. You know, I'm retired. I don't have schedules.
Yeah, well, I know, but I still feel rude when I had to do that. But anyway, here we are today, and I'm so glad to do that. And Gigi was kind enough, before I left the US, she actually sent me one of her books, and you can see it right here. And The End of the Earth, and this was book 2. She has one that's prior to this, and she just told me book 3 is going to be coming out soon. So I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit, but we'll talk about some things out of this book. I carried this to the US or to Spain, and it was the last Camino book that I read before I started this last walk. So a special book for me. And so I think maybe, Gigi, gosh, there are so many directions we could go tonight. And maybe we should start with, for folks that maybe haven't read your books yet or not familiar with you, is let's just start with, I think we were talking earlier, you've walked, this next Camino you're going to do will be number 5.
Yes.
Which is incredible. So let's go all the way back to
number 1.
Number 1. How did it all happen? What inspired you?
How did I get hooked on this? I'm an addict. Anyway, well, it all started years and years ago. My husband and I are both professional musicians, classical musicians. We play French horn, and I've been in education. And so in the summertime, when I'm not teaching, we go to Europe and we perform a lot over there. We get, hired to perform with orchestras. Anyway, so we have spent a lot of time primarily in France and Italy. And so, I'd always heard about the Camino, and everybody over there knows about it. And so you talk with them, and this person did it, and it was something that was very interesting to me. And every time I would meet someone that would tell me about it, I'd go, yeah, that sounds kind of fun. So I knew I was going to be retiring, like 3 or 4 years. And I said, you know what? when I retire, I really want to do that. And I said that to my husband. And he's like, you want to what? You know? And I said, yeah, Mark, I really would like to do it. Would you like to go with me? And no. See, when we travel in Europe, we have our French horns and, our concert wear is, tuxedo and long wear. So, we're pretty elaborate when we travel. And so we have to, hire cars and stay in nice hotels. And, of course, we always fly first class. And my husband loves that. I like it too. But being in a backpack and staying in dormitories, that's not his cup of tea. So he was just very, very supportive. And he said, honey, if you want to go ahead. But I don't want to. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go. So I planned for it, my year of retirement. So my last day of teaching was like on a Friday. And the next Monday, I was on a plane to Paris. And I didn't waste any time. And over those 3 years, I read everything. I watched every YouTube video. I saw every movie. I did the maximum research to learn everything I could about walking a Camino. So anyway, I get to Paris and get a plane, and I go down to Biarritz, and I get to Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and I get out of the little train station, and I see this yellow arrow on the wall and the Camino scallop shell, and it's like, I can't believe it. I'm really here. What a thrill that was to see my first yellow arrow. So anyway, I had rented a private room for that night. I didn't want to stay in the dorm my first night, thinking I was going to sleep. So excited. The next morning I woke up and I got my little breakfast, my pack on, and I started walking. I was so excited. And I was planning on staying in Orson. But, of course, when I got there, it was raining and all the rooms were full. And it's like, oh, dear, I'm kind of wet and cold. What am I going to do? And I checked around some other places. Couldn't find any place to stay. So it's like, okay, I guess I have to go on to Roncesvalles. So, all right. And it started just dumping water. And, the mud, the gray slime, slunk, falling down a bunch. And, of course, that's a pretty good hike.
Yeah.
You get to the top, and then you got to go back down. So, anyway, I had left Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port at, I don't know, maybe 5:36 in the morning. By the time I pulled into Roncesvalles, it was probably about 6 in the evening. I was wasted. I couldn't believe it. I walk into the big dormitory, and I pull up to the desk to register, and I just go, do you have a bed? And the dear man, he was so kind. He said, oh, my dear, come over here, sit down. You just relax. And he helped me take my pack off. He says, you just rest here until you're ready, and then we'll get you signed in. And, he was so kind. So we got signed in. He says, okay, my dear, if you want, I'll take your pack, and I'll show you where your bed is. So he slowly, walked with me. I sat down on my bed. He took my boots off. He pulled out my bedroll, my sleeping bag. He was so kind. I was so wasted. He said, honey, dinner there's 2 meals, one at 7, one at 9, and then there's a Pilgrim Mass. And I'm like, oh, thank you. He left. I fell asleep. I didn't wake up until the next morning. But you know what? As tired as I was, there was a smile on my face. I was so happy. I was so content. And I was so wasted. But it was a good one, a good waste. So that was how I got hooked.
I love it. Well, that's kind of similar to my story from Saint Jean this past fall. It rained the entire time, wind, storm. And it was the only day on both sides. Like, it would have been beautiful the several weeks before and beautiful the several weeks after. But the day I walked, and I think I posted on Caminos, like it didn't matter. I was so happy to be there that I was smiling through my little poncho. So I can totally identify. So wow, what a great start you had. And you must have loved it because now you're hooked. You've walked 4 times and you've already got your 5th plan.
And the 5th day, I leave on June the 13th. Yep, I'm getting ready. I've already bought my plane ticket. Anyway, yeah, so during all of my researching, you know, I found guidebooks, and on day 1 you're here, and day 2, and my books are very different. As you once mentioned in one of your podcasts, it's about the people. It's not about the towns or this or that. It's the people and the stories that the people have. And so my books are stories that people share with me, because when you meet people, they all have so many interesting stories. And this is the real nitty-gritty of walking a Camino. And so it's my, maybe my gift to the Camino community is sharing and passing along these wonderful stories. So that's what my books are all about. Book one is The End of the Earth, Stories of Caminos. Book 2 is The End of the Earth, More Stories of Caminos. And then book 3 is The End of the Earth, Even More Stories of Caminos. Real original, huh? Anyway.
One of the stories I was going to bring up that's in this one is the story about the shoe mix-up.
Oh, that was so funny.
I just laughed so hard. So I wonder if you might want to share that story to kind of give people an idea of what your books are like, because
okay. Well, when you go into the refugios here, or the albergues, as you walk into the entrance, you've got all these little cubby holes where you put your shoes, and so you don't trap mud throughout. So everybody walks around in socks, and people's shoes in the cubby holes, they all look alike. And you have to be very careful, especially if you're getting up in the morning before the sun comes up. You have to be very careful to get the right shoes. And my shoes, I actually have a reflective piece of tape so that I can just shine my phone light down the row, and there's my shoes. And well, anyway, so these women from Argentina, I'm sorry, Brazil, just delightful women. But one of them she was a model, just drop dead gorgeous, but very tall, very, very. Her shoes were the size of a smaller man, okay? And so you couldn't tell her shoes from somebody else's. And she had heard that you need to do something special on your shoes so you can identify them. So what she had done is she had painted pink around the edge of her morals, and so that she could identify those as her boots. So one morning she woke up and she went to go get her boots out of the rack, and they weren't there. They were gone. And she's like, oh my goodness. And so she's asking all around, hey, did somebody get my shoes? And, no, they're gone. So she tried and tried for a couple of days to find her shoes. So by the way, in the meantime, there had been a pair of shoes left in the rack that were just exactly like hers and the same size. And so she said, okay, the person that left these shoes must have taken mine. So I'm going to wear these shoes because they fit, and hopefully I'm going to find mine in another day or 2. So as she went, she stopped in at every refugio, every albergue, and told the story, hey, if you see anybody with some shoes and a pink stripe, they're mine. Can you please tell them, hey, I've got your shoes. Yeah. So it went on for a couple of days. And she figured, I'm never going to find those shoes. They're gone. But these are working. So, okay, we're all right. So she and her friend, who's about my size, so this is like this big difference. this large lady and this little petite, woman. They're walking in. You can hear they're doing the tile. Sorry about that. But anyway, they're walking in a village, and she sees. I'm getting tile put in my house. I'm sorry. Anyway, so she sees this person sitting in a cafe that has her shoes on, and so she doesn't speak much English, so she's speaking, rattling away in Portuguese. Those are my shoes, and this guy thought, oh my God, this crazy lady, she's coming at me, and she goes, no, and she's saying, you have my shoes. And she's trying to say, look at the pink stripe. Look, the pink stripe. And he's like, you're crazy. And then finally someone translates and says, those are her shoes, and she has on your shoes. And can't you see the pink stripe? And he looks and he goes, I don't see a pink stripe. Well, it turns out he was colorblind, and he couldn't see the pink at all. And so he had been walking for 2 days in these Merrell boots with a pink stripe.
I love it. Well, that story, when I read it, I just thought it was hilarious. And just, I can't even imagine her, what he must have felt like, having her yelling at him and not understanding, like pointing at the shoes and thinking, but I have my own shoes on. So I think that's such a great Camino story. Now, did they end up switching? I can't remember. Did they switch, or did they just keep them?
They did switch. Absolutely.
That's a great story.
But stories like this, I mean, this is what makes your Camino experience what it is. It's hearing all these bizarre things that happen to people. I mean, like the showers. You've stayed in a lot of albergues, a lot of refugios. Showers are funny. They are, how do you turn them on? How do you turn them off? How do you regulate the heat? Yeah, crazy things.
Well, the ones that are timed?
Oh, yeah. And you have to get out of the shower to go hit the button again and then come back in.
Yeah. Well, I had one. It was just, I had one coin, and it was a 5-minute shower. And I was so tired, and I, really wanted to have a nice hot shower. And there was hot water, blessed. But I was so worried about the 5 minutes, but it was more than enough time, But I just, in my mind, that 5 minutes seemed so short, but it was totally fine. Yeah. But yes, you're right on the showers. And, I was going to say, back on the shoe thing, it was so unnerving, sometimes to put your poles in that communal pole space, your shoes, and, you got to have a little bit of faith when you walk away that stuff's going to be there tomorrow. And it always is. And just like that shoe story, I mean, nothing to be scared of. There were a pair of shoes she could wear, thank goodness. So it always works out somehow. So that's the great part about it. One of the things you talk about, one of the chapters is, talk to strangers. And I know that, especially with us being both from the US, sometimes when we're out, maybe walking on trails in the US, maybe people don't talk as much, or we've been raised to not talk to strangers and whatnot. So I wonder if you could just kind of talk about your experience. And because I think there was one story of eating dinner where you met somebody. And so I think that's a really nice story.
If you don't get out into the community and meet the people, you're missing a big part of the Camino experience. And that's one of the reasons that I prefer to walk alone, because I can choose to walk with other people or to go visit with other people. And when I'm in villages, there's nothing I like more than to visit with the person that runs the cafe, that, pulls the wine in the evening, And if you can't get out of your shell, once again, you're going to miss a big hunk of the Camino experience. And so, just by talking with people, you get invited into situations that you would miss. For example, when I was in a restaurant and I was listening to a conversation at a table next to me, and when the waiter would come out, the one young man was speaking perfect Galician, Spanish. And then he would go back into English with the person he was with. And, so I leaned over and said, "Excuse me, why is your Spanish so good? You know? And so we struck up a conversation, and we just became immediate friends. And it ended up that I joined their table. It was two young men that were recently married, and they were on a little vacation, and they were going to be going back to the one young man's home in Vigo. And they said, we'll be there in like about 4 or 5 days. Would you like to join us? And I'm like, well, heck yeah. So, so 4 or 5 days later, I went to Vigo, and I ended up staying 2 days with the family. And it was such a wonderful experience to be brought into the home of the local. And it was, if you don't approach things like that, if you're too closed up in your world, you're going to miss out on so much.
Oh, I love that story when I read it because, I think sometimes we're afraid to maybe like go up to somebody that's having dinner and just start that conversation. And look what that led to. I mean, it's so cool that you got to go and stay with them. And, sometimes, Gigi, I will talk to particularly women, and I think it's sometimes some men as well, that it can seem a little bit scary or overwhelming to think about walking that far by yourself. And I was smiling when you said that, when you mentioned it to your husband, that he didn't want to go. And I kind of see that as a gift, because right when you're able to walk on your own, I'll let you speak to this, but I feel like you're never really alone, but you can walk in solitude if you need to. So I wonder if you could just kind of talk about your experience with that concept.
If you can't be comfortable with yourself, how can you be comfortable with others? So that's kind of my philosophy. And when you're all by yourself, you have no crutches, nothing to lean on. It's just you. And it can be a beautiful thing if you can let go and enjoy it. And, I enjoy visiting with people, but I also like my alone time.
That's what I think. Like, you can get your alone time. And I really love being able to just be on my own and decide when I'm going to stop, I'm not going to stop. It's just a really a beautiful luxury, I think, to walk on your own. And but at the same time, you find people to usually talk to. Now, you've had a recent Camino where that wasn't the case, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But I think that's so interesting. Let's pivot a little bit and talk about you're Jewish and you practice a kosher diet.
Yep.
Wow, I found that out.
Well,
how are you doing that? Because this is a meat-based.
Well, Spain actually has a separate food group for the pig. So they've got, they've got green, they've got dairy, they've got veggies, they've got meat, and they've got pig. So, I'm Orthodox. I'm actually Chabad. So I keep kosher. And that's a chapter that I have dealt with a couple of times in both of my books, is how do you keep kosher in a country that, is really about the pork and the shellfish, the pulpa, and, all of the unkosher foods. And it's really very easy. You have to make the effort, but it can be done. And so this is one of the things I talk about in my book. Now, when I first got to Spain, I thought, well, I'm sure I'll be able to do okay. I can get salads, and I can go to grocery stores and so forth. So my very first meal in Spain in a restaurant, I ordered a salad. I thought, okay, that's going to be pretty safe, And I said, I just, want a salad, a vegetarian salad. And so the waitress, brought out, I was with a couple other people, Pilgrims, and the waitress brought out my lovely salad. I mean, it's beautiful. It's eggs and lettuce and carrots and cucumbers. It was really nice, but it had lardons on it, bacon bits. And so, so I called the waitress over and I said, I ordered a vegetarian salad. I think this might be somebody else's. And she says, oh, no, senora, no, that's not meat. That's lardons. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to research this a little better. So they don't call it meat. It's, it's its own food group.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big meat lover myself. And so even for me, sometimes the pork thing can be an issue. So how do you work around it? What do you do? Because obviously it's very important. It's not just a dietary desire. It's very important to you.
It's important for a couple of reasons. The mitzvah or the commandment is to make the effort. And if something gets by and you don't know about it, you've still made the effort. So it's not like, oh, you're going to hell. It's just that, making the effort, making the choice to keep the dietary laws and doing the best you can. Mm-hmm. And so I do a lot of eating out of grocery stores. And in the big cities, you can go into a grocery store and you'll find an aisle or an area in the store that's called international foods. And you think, international? Well, that would be, Germany, France. No. International is America. Okay, because you're over there. And so you can go to the international section in the grocery stores, and you can find a lot of the kosher items. So that's the first place to go, is the international aisle of your big supermarket. And you can get all kinds of stuff. Now, products that you get here in the States that are kosher, like, for example, Lipton soup, the little soup packets, okay? They make a kosher product for the States, but the product that they make and ship over to Europe is not kosher.
Oh.
It's the same product, but it's made differently for the European market. But you can get the kosher product. It's the same thing, but it has the kashrut symbol, but it's going to be in the international aisle. Oh. So you just have to know how to shop. Wow. And so I do most of my eating out of the grocery stores. Okay. And if I'm doing a pilgrim meal, usually in the evening, everybody tries to cook something and contribute something to the meal. And I will go to the grocery store and get something that's going to be kosher, and I will prepare it for the table, and so that I can enjoy the fellowship with the other pilgrims and still keep kosher. Yeah. So that's how I deal with that.
Okay, so really being self-sufficient, thinking ahead, and making sure that you're taking care of your own needs rather than depending on somebody to change.
Right. I mean, you're in another country. This is their country. You can't expect them to bend over backwards and take care of you. You have to be self-sufficient. Otherwise, you're rude. You're just rude.
Yeah. And, when you think about how many different dietary preferences, restrictions, actually needs based on religion or based on illness, these little cafes can't really afford to deliver perfectly for all of those things. Right. And so, I think it's really smart to talk about you gotta take care of your own self in some of these situations. So, yeah. Okay, so recently, I meant to ask you this before we got on the interview, and I totally forgot, but you had a post on Facebook showing your backpacks.
Oh, yeah. How they get progressively smaller. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about this, because I think at one point you had talked about every gram counts. You got to really zero in to get to the smallest backpack. So the first time you walked over Saint Jean, that was a much bigger one.
It was. I was carrying 10 pounds.
10 pounds. Okay.
And then I went to 8 pounds, and then last year was 7 pounds, and this year I've got an even smaller, and I'm hoping to be 6 pounds. Okay. And see, now I'm a tiny person. I only weigh like 80 pounds. So
that's what I was going to say. So that 10-pound one was over your 10%.
It was over my 10%. Yeah. Yeah. Now, how do I do this?
How in the world are you getting to 6? Because I'm telling you, I have tried. So this is 6 pounds in a summer.
Yeah, summer.
No, not winter,
Yeah,
right?
I typically go anywhere from June to September. Yeah.
June to September. Okay.
Mhm.
So to get down to that 6 pounds, how much? Okay, my backpack, my original backpack that I ended up getting rid of, but
Uh-huh.
it was like 3 pounds. Just
Yeah, mine, the one I have right now is 1 pound 2 ounces.
do you have one of the ultralight?
Yeah.
Sounds
Mhm.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. How many liters? Like, what's like if somebody were to buy it? What's the size?
Yeah, it's 20. Yeah. No, I'm sorry, it's 18. It's 18. Yeah.
18 liters. Okay. So, okay. So, what are you not taking, or what are you doing special to get it down so low? Because I know this is a big concern for a lot of people, and I'm always telling people carry as little as you can, because at the end of the day, it matters so much for your body health, your emotional health when you're tired and angry.
Well, what I like to tell people is take as little as you can, and you're not going to a third world country here. This is Spain. If you need something, you can buy it. Yes. But I have a tank top, I have a t-shirt, and I have a long shirt. Okay, so there's 3 tops. I have short pants, I have knit long pants.
And then how many sets of that do you have?
Just one.
Hey, how are you doing laundry?
I have when I get to the refugio or the elevator, wherever I am, as soon as I get there and have a glass of wine,
Priority.
Absolutely. I hop into the shower with all my clothes on, and I suds up and take them off. I'm left with nothing except for my one long sleeve top. And so, unless I've washed that, and then I'll just wrap up in a blanket or something, or I'll put on my, whatever, and then I go to bed, and then the next morning I get up and I put it all back on again.
Is it always dry?
I always find places to dry it. Usually the little radiators in the rooms, I hang it over there, I drape it wherever. But yeah, so I wash my clothes every night. And every couple of days I try to find a room that has a laundry facility so I can actually throw it in the washer and dryer and get it really clean. Then I have 2 sports bras, and they double as a swimsuit. So I can get my laps in when I find pools, and then 2 pair of underwear and 3 socks. So in the morning, I've slept in 1 pair of socks, and I'll wear those until midday, and I'll take those off and change into my 2nd pair of socks, and I wear those until I get to the hotel room or the refugio. And then after I get out of my shower, I put on my 3rd pair of socks, and those I sleep in. And I get up in the morning and I wear that. So 3 pair of socks.
If I'm understanding you correctly, Miss Gigi, you are at nighttime. Okay, first off, I love that you're showering with your clothes on. Why I did not think about that, because I would shower and then go back into the bathroom with my pile of clothes and wash them in the shower or in the sink, whatever I could do. So very smart. So good move. I will do that next time. But afterwards, after your shower, you're putting on a long sleeve tee or whatever.
And socks. And socks. Yep.
What's on your bottom? Your
a towel or a sheet or anything I can find.
Until it's bedtime.
Yeah, it's bedtime.
Even at the dorms, even at the albergues.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Why not?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So other secrets, I think you mentioned using like baggies for things.
Yeah, when you go to grocery stores, they package things in so many containers. Like a box of cereal is going to have, the outer box and then the inner thing. And, just open it up and dump it in one of those little veggie bags that you get at the grocery stores. Get rid of all of that cardboard and all of that plastic wax-coated paper, just to make things lighter. And then when you get fruit, an apple weighs a lot, but a dehydrated apple weighs nothing. And there's more fiber and more substance in the dehydrated than in the fresh one. So packing the dehydrated fruits in your pack to walk during the day is wonderful because you can snack on those all day long. And then when you get to the store, buy your fresh apple right there. But don't carry it around with you all day. It's heavy.
Why did I not think about that? I carried so many apples this last time. And they're so bulky. They take a lot of space.
Take a lot of space. Yes. And then for water, whenever I have a little bottle of water, and and I'll drink out of it until it's almost empty, and I know where the next water place is. When I get to the next water place, I'll fill up my water bottle, and I'll just start dousing the water. Drink as much as I can. Then I fill up my water bottle and put it in my pack.
Yeah. I find that for most, unless you're walking in the hot summer, I really overpack on the water. But in the hot summer, there are some stretches, especially on the Frances, that you'd have to be careful. But yeah. Oh, these are great tips. I'm loving it. Now, I will say your Caminos have gone very well, but you have had some challenges. There was a fall once that I've read about. So I wonder if you could talk about that and how that all came out. That's one of the beauties or the learning experiences that you can have on the Camino is that things happen and you just have to deal with it. I like to get up early in the morning and watch the sun come up as I walk. So I was up very early one morning, and when you get to cattle guards, there usually is a gate off to the side for people to go through. And this one cattle guard I came to, it had a lock on the people side, so that you couldn't open up the gate. So my only option was to walk across the cattle guard. And of course, those are the metal slats, and they're about maybe 4 inches apart, So I was like very carefully. And, when you have a pack on, you're top heavy. It's like, a bowling ball on a stick. And if you fall, boom. So anyway, I'm walking across the cattle guard, and my pole slipped through, and I just lost my balance. And I went head first across to the other side in the dirt and just took a really, really hard fall. And so I split my eye open, and facial wounds, they bleed a lot. And, I had abrasions in my elbows and my knees, because I had shorts on and short sleeves. And so, I was like, oh my goodness. I took my phone and turned on the phone camera and flipped it around. So I look at myself and go, oh, this looks pretty bad. And I do have a medical background, so I know about emergency triage. And so I very quickly triaged myself and said, okay, that's all right. That's okay. This is pretty bad. And I know I got a bit of a concussion. But, hey, I'm like 5 miles away from the next village. I'm out here alone. What do I do? Well, okay, I got to keep going, I have to keep going. There's nothing else I can do. So I just started walking, and, a few hours later, I finally get into the village. It was actually Los Arcos. Oh. So I got there, and as I'm walking into the village, there's a couple of teenage boys, 12, 13, whatever, and they see this old lady with blood everywhere. I must have looked a sight. And they're going, oh, man, and they're, talking a million miles an hour, and I'm just like, yeah, okay. So they took me to the nearest little medical clinic, and where I got some attention. And these 2 young boys, one of them took my pack, and then the other one was helping me along, And these 2 young boys stayed in the waiting room until I got treated to make sure that I was okay. It was, just teenage boys. So anyway, it turns out I had to get some stitches, and when they x-rayed, I had fractured the cheekbone, but, I had a concussion, and I ended up staying a couple of nights in the village, and yeah, it was quite traumatic. But, you're given adversities like this,
And there's something that you need to learn through the adversity. And that's where you dig deep and find out, what do I need to learn from this? And what I needed to learn from that situation is that I can take care of myself. I'm okay. And I've got the divine there also. And the divine is never going to give me any more than I can handle. He's going to take care of me. And that's an important lesson, I think, to learn.
Yes. And I think the Camino always finds a way to kind of give you that test to show you. Because it seems to always be something unexpected, and then you remember that you're going to be okay. And those boys showing up to take care of you.
Now, my last Camino, I did the Portuguese, the coastline. And I actually started in the very southeast corner of Portugal, and I walked the entire coastline, all the way up through Lisbon, Porto, all the way to Vigo, and then I did the spiritual variant, and then Festera, and then Moaxa, and then into Santiago. So anyway, it was a wonderful trip. It took me 8 weeks, and when you're walking a Camino, you get into the little villages and you go, oh, I want to see that, but you're just tired. So you have to go to your lodging for the night. And what I had planned was that when I got to Santiago and stayed a few days, I was going to get a car and I was going to come back and drive through Portugal and see all these places I wanted to see that I hadn't had time. And our friend Guilherme, he was gonna meet me in Ponte de Lima, and we were gonna go out to dinner again there because we had stayed there for a time. He had shown me around the area. So anyway, I had this car, and my first stop was going to be Ponte de Lima, and I got there, and I checked into my my flat. I got an apartment that had a washer and dryer. Nice. And so anyway, I'm after my clothes are in the laundry, and I'm wearing a sheet, and I'm drinking my wine, and I got a phone call. And I go, hello? And I go, is this Dr. Guylene Gigi Tree? And I go, yeah. And is your husband Mark Sheldon? I go, yeah. Well, he's in the emergency room. He had a heart attack. And then all of a sudden, the phone was dead. And I'm like, what? And so that's all I knew. I didn't know what hospital. I didn't know anything. And so here I am in this village in Portugal. So I call my good friend here in California, and I call my rabbi, and I say, I just had this call. Can you find out what hospital he's been taken to? And I tried calling his phone, of course, no answer. So anyway, there was not too much I could do except try to get back to Sacramento. And so I got on my phone and I started making various arrangements to get turn the car in Porto and fly from Porto to Lisbon and then fly from Lisbon back to Sacramento. And everything, is going to be okay, and hopefully. And so the next morning I did that, and still I hadn't heard anything, nothing. I had no idea what was going on with my husband. So that next morning, I finally got a call. He was in stable condition. I couldn't talk to him. He was out under medication. But my friend had found him, and she said he's stable right now. He's going to be okay. And so okay, well, nothing I can do but try to get home. So I got to Lisbon, and all of the west or the east coast of the United States was in a storm, bad weather, and there were no planes leaving or entering the East Coast. So I was stuck in Lisbon. The plane that I was going to be getting on hadn't even left New York. It couldn't get out to go to Lisbon to go back to New York. So I was stuck. So I went up to the airline counter, and everybody's just, frantic. We got to go, and what can we do? And yelling, and, it was horrible. It was total pandemonium. So I got up to the ticket counter, and I told the young lady, Gabriella, I said, I know there's nothing much I can do, but can you tell me, like, what options, any idea? And so we got to talking, and she was from Lisbon, born and raised there, and she has walked Camino. So we talked about, I just walked a Camino, and I said, I just got word that my husband had a heart attack, and I'm trying to get home to him. And I said, I know it's not your fault, but can you do anything? So anyway, we talked, we visited, and when I fly to Europe, I always fly first class. I mean, I like that much of me. I'm sorry, but anyway,
Lucky you.
So she said, well, your best bet is just to go up to the first class lounge and just watch the monitor and check it every hour. And so I went up there, and it's a very nice lounge up there. They have little cubicles where you can actually go to sleep, and they have showers and buffet dinner and everything. So I was okay. And every hour I was getting up and looking at the monitor. I ended up sleeping there kind of every hour anyway. And then the next morning I got up, I took a shower, I went to the main room and did the breakfast buffet, and I'm sitting there looking at my phone and looking at the monitor and whatever. And a young man comes up to me and says, Dr. Tree? I go, yes. He goes, we found a flight for you. It's no hurry, but when you finish your breakfast, I'll be waiting outside. I go, whoa, gee, thank you. So, I quickly finish, and I go outside. And he takes me down the back corridors and the alleys and the doors and the hallways, and then back down to the area, the ticketing area, where I had met the woman the previous day. And she says, oh, there you are. She says, you were the only person yesterday that didn't yell at me. And so I have been here all night trying to find a flight for you. And I called in a favor from a friend with a totally different airline. And we've got you a flight to Chicago. But you'll have to stay overnight. And then you can fly Chicago to Sacramento. And I'm like, you angel. Thank you. Thank you. So once again, here is the divine teaching me another lesson, or reaffirming a lesson. He's not going to give us any more than we can handle, and he's going to take care of us. And there was nothing I could do except just, okay, it's in your hands. Take care of me.
Wow. I really love, first off, I'm relieved to know that your husband is okay, because we've been talking about him earlier. So glad that everything worked out. So many things I want to ask you about this. I guess the first thing I want to point out, and I'm sure folks that are listening or watching this, I think part of it is Gigi played out in this, because I think the way that you handled yourself at the counter, the fact that Gabriella's name is a testament to how you handled this in such a beautiful pilgrim fashion. And then her then coming into being that angel of staying after because you were so kind to her, and then finding that flight. That's just amazing. I wondered, how did you have that presence about you? Because you had just walked for 8 weeks. I mean, I would imagine you were tired. I mean, you seem so, folks don't know this about you maybe right now, but I mean, you work at ski patrol. I mean, when I watch your Facebook, I'm just like, you're really impressing me, Gigi. Like, you are a powerful woman. Yet at the same time, you had to be tired, I would think. But like, how did you have that presence, being worried about your husband?
This is again one of the gifts of the Camino. It teaches you peace of mind. You have this wonderful, wonderful peacefulness every day, and it just carries over. And that's what we bring back from our Caminos, is that wonderful, wonderful, harmonious way of living.
That's beautiful. I also want to talk to you a little bit about, you travel a lot because of, being a professional musician, and Gigi, you could go anywhere for vacation. It sounds like, right? You probably have enough miles that you could be going to, I don't know, Fiji, wherever, any resort. Yet, these are your vacations. And I wonder, I had a friend recently ask, the folks that walk multiple times, why? And I'm just curious, I'm really curious about that, is what keeps bringing you back when you could be going anywhere? Like, you made a choice to walk 8 weeks, staying in dorms, doing all these different things when you could have just, gone on a cruise, whatever anyone's definition of an easy vacation.
Well, yeah, here's why I do it. My very first Camino was so wonderful. I just learned so much. It was such a positive, moving experience. Once you connect with the Camino, you now take ownership in that Camino. And ownership brings responsibility. And so now we are responsible to keep it alive for others. It's our Camino, and it's going to die without us. And it's very important to give back to the Camino. So we all need to find out what our gifts are and how we can give back to this wonderful, wonderful thing that has given us so much. You do these wonderful podcasts. Other people volunteer at albergues. Other people, whatever. They buy restaurants and open up Camino, cafes and things to support the pilgrims. For me, my PhD is in musicology, so my career, I was writing scholarly papers, things that I enjoyed, but not bestsellers. But I did have a writing background, and so I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to give back to the Camino by writing the stories to just give another perspective to potential Camino walkers, to give them something else to inspire them. And so when I wrote these stories, as I write these stories, I'm not giving you a travelogue of, day 1 you do this, day 2 you do that. These are actual people and things that have happened on them. And my hope is to inspire others to go and experience this. And then they will become obligated to help support the Camino too.
Yes, that's exactly right. And I love how you're saying that, because I think sometimes, people be like, oh, they just wrote a book because they're going to make money off of it. And it's like, no, it is a labor of love.
My publisher keeps saying, you're not going to make any money if you keep giving these books away.
I love that, because you're giving back. And, I can remember, I was still in Seattle, I think, at this, well, yeah, for sure. You were one of the very first people to come to walk in 2020, I think, if I'm saying this correctly, that fall.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if you posted this or I've heard you say it, but, that you almost felt a responsibility that when the Camino reopened, you felt a responsibility to come back. And so I wonder if you could kind of speak to that, because I know there are some people right now in the US that, are on the fence. They don't know, is this the right year for me to go? Everybody's going to make that decision for themselves. But what's your perspective on that? And why was that so important to you to come at that time?
If we don't support the Camino, it's going to die. It needs the pilgrims. We have to. There are so many communities that are alive that depend upon the pilgrims. And if we don't go, they don't have a business. They can't make a living. They're going to close. Now, back when the big COVID happened, I had an airplane ticket for June, and I was going to fly into Madrid. Well, then I couldn't go, and 2 weeks later, I booked it again, couldn't go, and it just kept going every 2 weeks. And I was bound and determined to get to Spain. I wanted to walk another Camino. And by the way, I had COVID, so I have the natural antibodies, and I did several blood tests, so I had all the documentation. I mean, I wasn't going to be a threat to anyone if I were, I wouldn't have gone. But anyway, so I was very safe. So finally in September, the window opened up, and I had like a 24-hour window to get on that plane and go. And like after I left, it closed again. So I just barely made it. So I was actually walking the Via de la Plata in September and October, and there was nobody there. I mean, I went 3 weeks before I saw my first pilgrim. I started in Cadiz, and then Seville, and so forth. And yeah, there was no one there. So I had to get creative. A lot of the pilgrim support structure was closed. You know, refuges were closed out there. So I had to stay mostly in B&Bs and, you know, Casa Rurals and so forth. And then I also got very creative. What I would do is on booking.com, I would find places that were, you know, maybe 30, 40, 50 kilometers off of the Camino, and I would type a message. I'm walking the Camino. I want to stay at your place. Can you come get me? And then bring me back the next morning. And these people, they have no tourism. They were so happy to book a room. And so I had some wonderful experiences where people would drive 40, 50 kilometers, pick me up. You know, I'd give them my GPS coordinates, pick me up, bring me back to their, you know, their bed and breakfast or whatever, stay the night, you know, have dinner and so forth, and then take me back the next morning so I could continue on my Camino. So I had to get very creative, but it opened up another way of seeing the Camino.
Oh yeah, that had to be so cool, because now you're staying at places that are kind of off the track, which had to be a neat experience. So yeah, that was really cool. Now you're coming back in June, I think. Is that right?
In June, correct. Yeah, I leave June 13th, and I'm going to do the Camino Levante. And so I'm going to start I'll fly into Madrid, and then I'll go to Valencia, and then I'll walk up. And when I get to the top of that, I'll probably go up to Astoria, and then over to you.
Yes, perfect. I cannot wait. So you're going to have, I think, some interesting, we'll have to do another interview after that, because, you know, you walked the Camino pre-COVID, before we even knew this thing was going to happen. And then you walked it just right after.
Right during, and then right after.
Right after, and now a little bit after.
Close. Yeah. And it has changed. It has changed a lot. You know, the like a big thing is the communal dinners are a thing of the past. Yeah. You know, they're gone. The large dorms, they're gone. You know, I mean, some of the dorms that I stayed in during COVID, you know, it's a room with, you know, maybe 6 or 8 bunk beds, and I was the only one. They could only rent it out to one person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all probably curious as to what the future holds for some of the things that maybe we've been used to pre-COVID, like the communal dinners. I really missed that.
Yeah.
I was able to have a couple, but they were still different. Any of the albergues I stayed in, the kitchens were closed, so there was no making it. There could be a communal dinner if they served a dinner. But in some situations, you know, there were plastic barriers in between diners. Dining rooms were completely closed. It was very different. Now, I will say, right now, being here in Spain, it feels very good. People are being very diligent about wearing their masks, vaccination proof, or, you know, having the antibodies is asked for in almost all the major cities, and even some of the smaller ones. When I went out to Festera and Muxia, I was asked. Also, of course, in Santiago. So, you know, I feel like Spain is taking it very seriously and doing, you know, its best to keep everybody safe. And there's not much talk about it here. Like when I was leaving the US, so there was so much debate about everything concerning COVID, to where here it just seems that people are just doing what they need to do and going about their lives. So it will be really interesting to see what this summer holds. I'm praying for everybody because I know there are so many people sitting now, probably listening or watching this interview, that have not yet walked and really want to walk this year.
Go! You're
Um,
needed. You are very much needed. It's
Yes.
going to die if we don't continue to support it.
because I think in the little village that I'm living in, right, it is determined by having pilgrims coming. Otherwise, it's not really a tourist destination. It's a lovely village, but it's not going to be someplace that people will come to vacation. But it's a great support place for pilgrims. And of course, we have the Vespers, and it's right before Cruz de Ferro. So there's great things here.
Right.
But yes, I think it's so important because we want to keep these, the cafes, the bars, the restaurants, the albergues. We want to keep as many things as we can in business. So everybody has to make that decision for themselves. But I'm hoping that folks feel brave and have the courage to come and walk, because I know hearing your stories, and if they pick up your book, if you have any doubt, pick up Gigi's books and read more of her stories. But I feel very confident after hearing your experiences that even when there was a challenge, people still pulled through for you, and you found a self-sufficiency within you that you got through the hardest times. And I think that's one of the, like you said, one of the biggest lessons of the Camino for us. So. Wow, Gigi, this has, I've got to say, I feel badly for having to have canceled, but I feel really good about the timing of getting to spend this time with you today and hearing these stories. And I cannot wait to meet you in person this summer and to see you. And you inspire me. I'm walking with my dad on the Portuguese in July.
Oh, fun. Which route are you taking?
I think we're going to do the coastal, then come into Central, and we want to do the variant. So
of all the Caminos I have done, the spiritual variant is the best. I loved it. I want to do it again.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing, is that the variant is just, that spiritual variant is just so special.
It was the best.
Yeah, so I can't wait to do that. Now, can I get down to 6 pounds? I would like to, but I'm a little more needy at night. I've only walked when it's been cold, right? So it's hard for me.
It's very different, yeah.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to hear you saying you only have one set of clothes, because I'm like, okay, but my stuff didn't dry. Like, there were many mornings I woke up and my stuff was still wet, and so I would still, maybe have to pull out something dirty or wear something wet, which was not pleasant. And so I don't know, but I'm inspired, and I'm going to go dig up that picture. Maybe you can send it to me if you can find it, the one where it shows your backpacks.
My backpack.
How you've gone to this small one, but wow, Gigi.
The heaviest item in my backpack is my corkscrew, my bottle opener.
Yes.
That is a must. I cannot skimp on my bottle opener. I need my wines open. Thank you.
I told someone yesterday, I was doing a Facebook Live for another group, and I said the one thing that I regretted that I took out this year, because I'm keep taking things out before I start. Right? And so I got down to this really nice Swiss Army knife that I the lightest one. Corkscrew, scissors, serrated knife. I wanted those 3 things. I wanted to be able to cut bread, be able to open a bottle of wine, and there's just times you got to cut. And I don't know why.
And it's amazing how many times you get asked for your bottle opener, and then you always are given a glass of wine. So it's a very nice tool to have.
Very nice. And I got to tell you, I took it out because even though it's the lightest one, it was too heavy.
Oh.
And it was one of those items that there were a couple of times. I mean, I survived without it, but I would have really liked to have had it, because some of that bread, like if you buy bread at the grocery, it's really hard.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to pull apart. And when you want to have that bottle of wine, it's kind of a problem. So that one, I got to figure out how to, maybe I got to find a lighter one. I don't know, but Gigi, thank you so much. I really feel like you shared a lot of great stories today, a lot of great tips.
Well, thank you, Leigh.
I will have links to your books, and people can find you there. Maybe they can follow your adventures on Facebook. I don't know. Is there anywhere else? Are you on Instagram?
Nope. No, I'm, just on Facebook, and on all my walks, I do videos a couple of times a day. I enjoy keeping up with everyone. And it's amazing how many people you connect with. I have made so many friends, and I've actually visited them here in the United States, after I got back. And just want to see who they are, we've been old friends on Facebook, and it's kind of nice to connect up with them.
Oh, it's so wonderful. I feel like this is the first thing as an adult where I really feel like a part of something. You really, deep relationships with people that you might only walk with for a little bit. But I was talking to another pilgrim this morning, someone that I walk with, and we were talking about just like when you're out somewhere and you meet somebody and they somehow mention the Camino and you realize you're fellow pilgrims, and there's just this
immediate, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
For that in itself, I mean, I probably talk about this a lot on the podcast, but I'm just so grateful to be a part of this community any way that I am, because
we're all family. Yeah, it's a very special group. Yeah,
very special group. So, folks, if you listen to this today, please come walk and join this group. You won't regret it. I think you can see the smiles on our faces and how much this has added to our lives. It's amazing. All right. Well, we will close out. Gigi's, please stay on. I'll say goodbye to everyone, but thank you so much for coming today. I would love to have you back. Well, I want to visit with you when you're in Spain, but on top of that, I would love to have you back and update us on your next walk. That would be wonderful. I don't think I've had anyone at all talk about that route. So that would be a nice to hear about. And we didn't even get into all your routes. Not too many people really have talked about the Portuguese either. So maybe we can talk more about routes and whatever. There's just so much we could talk about. So everyone, thank you for watching. Please join our Facebook group. Remember, it's the Camino Cafe podcast group, and that's where you'll get the lives. Who knows, maybe Gigi will come sometime and do a Facebook live with us. It's just going to be a fun way to connect a little bit deeper with this community that is hearing all these pilgrim stories. So thanks for being a part of our pilgrim family, and because we call you that now. So thank you for being a part of that. And until next time, I have some really great interviews coming up, so keep tuned.
Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free as a bird now, with my feathered